Hey guys. Welcome back to the channel. I am Gabrielle, interior designer. I'm here to just have a little fun. And today I am reviewing another episode of Made by Design. This is episode 7 that I'm doing. Today there's so much going on. There's been so much happening in the last couple of weeks. So today I am doing the Radical Architect, um, Seun Oduwole. Hope I said that right. We're going to find out as soon as I start the video. But we're going to dive into the world of his buildings and his design. We're going to do that right now. I am live reacting to this while I continue to work on some stuff that I need to do around the house. Yay! All right. Without further ado, let's get to it. Symmetry. That's how it starts. The symmetry and delicate balance.
And I think it's very poetic. And so that definitely inspires me.
He definitely gives me architecture vibes.
And just
so many architect vibes.
Seeing things with new eyes. When it comes to architecture, I'm quite intentional. Architecture for me is about responsibility. It's about environmental responsibility. It's about social responsibility.
Environmental, social responsibility in architecture. I get that.
People live, how people interact, with buildings, with spaces. I see architecture as art, as public art.
It's so interesting to watch architects in the way they describe their art and their passion, because the level of passion is the same, but how they go about it, like they just have a very distinct way of connecting with their creations.
I'm inspired by sports people, that commitment to excellence, that's
he's inspired by sports.
Pursuit of perfection. Those stories of adversity, those stories of desire, hunger, and excellence, black excellence, and that insane
hunger, excellence, black excellence. Hey.
My name is Seun Oduwole. I am principal at CISA, Studio Imagine Simply Architecture, studio in Lagos.
All right, he's in Lagos. I think he's the second one who's been in Lagos.
I grew up in Lagos. I'm the first of 3. I have a brother, I have a sister. My father's an architect.
He's the oldest. His father's an architect, his mother's a doctor.
Fairly large family with a culture of excellence. I had a very eventful childhood. Growing up in Lagos was fun. It was filled with lots of memories. My grandfather had a big library with lots of books where I used to just go there and just lose myself.
His grandfather had a library with books. I love people who had libraries. I'm a book lover, if you hadn't noticed.
I actually started studying architecture in Nigeria. So I went to University of Nigeria for 2 years.
Oh, so he started architecture in Nigeria.
It was a great experience. Some of the most memorable times of my life. It was interesting because there was a bit of a culture shift going from UNN to Nottingham. So technically, I was good. I could draw. I was competent, but there was an introduction to different parts of architecture, philosophy, theory, which was challenging at first, but I immersed myself into it.
So because he started with the idea of the art first and being able to draw and all that kind of stuff, he went into university with that. But then when you get to university, and this happens the same for interior designers, you get the philosophy behind it and that kind of viewpoint of architecture. And it can be very difficult because they come from different spaces. But personally, that's the part that I probably love the most.
sent it in, got feedback later that it won, and then I had to make a decision about whether to come and try and build something that I had actually designed myself. And so that was how the journey, that chapter of the journey started. Well, my mentors, man, I have so many. I'm inspired by so many people. People that I've met, people that I've read about. I almost have different groups of mentors. I have my architecture mentors or muses. Let me put them that way. I have my motivational muses, and then I have my life coaches, if I want to call them that. I'm inspired by
So he has multiple sectors of mentors, which recently I've been hearing a lot about. Instead of just focusing on getting like one major mentor, having multiple for different parts of your life. And then that way you really get a more fully rounded aspect of building yourself up with these different people who are able to challenge the different parts in you and help you grow in those different sectors of yourself.
And promotion of culture and history. I remember going to National Museum as a child.
Promotion of culture and history.
And looking at all this documented history, Muratala Muhammad's car, and just that sense of importance of history, preservation, just frozen memory in time. And then growing up, going to other museums, to Guggenheim, MoMA.
Yeah, he's been to the Guggenheim and MoMA.
How they operated and seeing the sense of the wealth
I was so
of knowledge, the wealth of information.
I was expecting him to really have been focused in Britain.
Preserved and exhibited in those museums. And so, it was always something that fascinated me. And then just the thought of museums in our own environment and how they didn't quite work, the same way. So when this opportunity came up, it was a chance to sort of interrogate some of these ideas, that I had. How do you create a museum in our own context? When you are, exhibiting our own objects, our own culture.
How do you create?
How do you celebrate it instead?
That's a great question. He was asking himself because he was asked to be a part of creating a museum. How do you make it?
Those were the first questions that we asked, ourselves, around the table.
A space that accesses and is able to connect with the culture that's already there in Africa.
It starts with the history of Onikon. Onikon is a cultural quarter in Lagos Island. It has Freedom Park, the Seaback, which is the Center for Black Africans.
I love these images, but the editing on these, they start to, I guess they don't have enough content, so they just start to roll around the same exact clips over and over and over again. I've seen these 2 or 3 clips about 5 times already in the video. And we're still not even halfway through the video.
It's important to.
They did this for another episode too.
How do we bring it back? How do we make it relevant? And then there was the whole built-in memory, but the whole park and the swimming pool over time fell into disrepair. So when we got involved and put a pitch in, what we looked to do was to bring those stories. I mean, we're talking about the pool that was built in 1928. How do we bring that story into the 21st century and make it relevant and make people aware? So the first thing we looked at was renovating the pool. Bringing back some of that glory. The memorial hall was gone, so we thought we could replace that with some sort of community center with an exhibition hall. And then how do we bring back some of that park?
Definitely.
It was called the Love Garden, I believe, in the 70s. How do we bring some of that back and fuse the origin story, the history of that area?
So the land had so many different parts to it, where they're building this museum, and all of them had history from different sectors. There's a pool from the 1920s. There's what he referred to as a love park from the 70s, and then taking that in the historical context of those in those times when they were great, and bringing them together into something that is
that was
modern, but
interesting
still
because then
pays
got to
homage to the
organize it.
history
And then
itself.
the significance of the park for us was quite big because
It's a
Oniko,
great,
used to be
it's a great problem
chose
to
to build the
solve.
park, and a lot of that green space,
I
had
think
been
this is
lost.
what like
So the
these
thought
are
of
the things
having
that make architects tick, at
green
least from what
public
I've seen.
open space in the heart of Lagos Island, was quite attractive to us. So we wanted to bring back some of that public recreation that had been lost, but also make sure whatever interventions we were putting in, be it architecture, be it whatever else, was respectful, was contextual. So we came up and we did a lot of research on Yoruba culture, on Yoruba history, reading about always proverbs, there's a lot of wisdom.
Mm,
And so we thought it would be nice to have the building come out the ground, you
mm.
know, um,
So right
in a
now
nod
they're
to,
going through like the concept parts,
proverbs.
and
And
it's like
so we've got the building come out the ground,
it's like
like an
designer's
extension
dreams
of the
because
landscape.
you get to see the
We did
background
forward
of
like
what
nine
helped
trees in a nod
to make
to
the
Yoruba
ideas what they
progressiveness.
are.
With
Um,
Tesiwaju, the building leans forward. It's quite progressive,
so it's
and so there were a number
it can be a
of
lot for somebody who's really not
ideas that
into that,
we
but
looked to
you
use
get to see
visual materials,
how
right
a, a
through
thought
theatre, right through
and how an
architecture.
initial thought and a
There's a
moment
screen that
expands
wraps
itself
around the
into
building, and
this
that screen
big
is a nod to
space or this building in this
the
case.
craftsmanship
And
skill
it's such
of,
an interesting
the
process.
Yorubas, be it
And
through
it's
fabric looming,
especially
wood
necessary
veining,
for
weaving,
any
basket
project
weaving,
dealing with the built environment.
metal
And we all
forging,
do it, architects
just
and
trying to
designers alike.
express that
We go through
that
this
real
process with
skill,
all
that
those
talent
things.
that is still, being done today. And then also we looked to contextualize it even further. We looked to finish it in a rich Tyrolean to evoke the mud architecture of old Yoruba settlements. So, like I said, there were different concepts that we sort of layered over, to create the ideas for the project. We've been in conversations with the British Museum for a number of years now. It's been very positive. I'm very excited about it. We are getting a number of notable objects back of Yoruba origin, which will be
Okay,
in the
so they're in
exhibition.
connection with the British Museum for
We're
this
also in
particular
discussion with
project,
them about partnerships,
and in the partnership
training,
with the British Museum,
staff, cooperation
they're
mechanisms
getting
involved.
things back that the
So
British
I'm very
Museum
excited. I'm very excited
originally had on
about that
display. The
collaboration.
British
We
Museum is
have
sending them back
other collaborations as well with other
for
organizations
them
that I've been
to
discussing with and some other
show
galleries
within the
about
gallery of the museum.
possibilities to support the center once it's open. How much time do you have?
So they asked what
There's a lot to
challenges did he
challenge. I'll be
face,
honest, it hasn't.
and he said, "How much time do you
I
have?"
would say the biggest
It's
challenge
a big project.
is breaking the cynicism that this project can actually be
Oh,
executed
breaking the
excellently.
cynicism.
I think we operate in an environment
Breaking the
where
cynicism of this
systems are
project being
really
able
running
to be
at
built
an optimum.
with a level
So
of excellence. Oh,
to try and create and deliver such a grand project, is seen almost as an impossible task. So every time we talk about the project, we discuss it. It's just met with disbelief. Nah, you can't do that. Nah, it'll never work. Nah,
that's so
it's not
funny.
going to
There's
happen.
always
Sort
been
of thing.
there's
But
so many
slowly,
designers and architects
been
out
on this
there
thing
like
for 4 years now.
who have these ideas and have these
Bit by
concepts of
bit,
what they want
brick
to
by
do, and
brick,
there's
every bit
always
of the
these
work that's going
people, and
on the
that's most
side seems to
businesses,
come up.
most business owners who
There's a
have
lot of work
ideas.
behind the
There's
scenes.
people that are just there. They ain't gonna work.
It's starting to change.
You ain't
Things
gonna be
have been
there,
starting
able
to
to do that.
change.
You'll
So
never get people to
the
come.
belief is
And it's just like
starting to grow that we
everyone.
might actually pull this off.
It's just like
But that's been
this
the biggest
intense
challenge. But they have other
thing where we have to
challenges,
deny the
systemic challenges
idea
that we
because it wasn't
have
our
to deal
own.
with. But like I said,
As
you don't
people,
have enough
like,
time
why do we do
for
this?
me to go through them all.
Why do we do this? I've been guilty of it before, um, and I'm getting better about doing that to people because I recognize how that looks, in my business, and people telling me that I can't do
We did a lot
something.
of
So
research,
it's just,
into
why do we do
Europe,
that to
Yoruba
ourselves and to
history,
the people that we
the
love? You can't do
Southwest,
that.
Oniko, and
Rethink that concept.
that gave us a lot of information also conscious that that was limited to the architecture. So internally, we needed a story, we needed a narrative, we needed a compelling story. And I read this book called Yoruba Art and Language by Professor Rolanda Biodo, and it looked at Yoruba culture from
Yoruba
multiple
art and language.
perspectives, mythologies, cosmologies, Yoruba art and language as visual and verbal or Riki. Um, and it resonated with me, and I thought, how do we bring that to life? Yeah, because Yoruba culture is
He
very broad,
referenced the
very
book.
tall,
You
it's
know, I
very
wrote it down
grand,
just
very
now.
sculptural. And I'm a big
I've been reading
concern
books now. I'm gonna get
about
you a book.
museums being static, museum experiences being static, so I was very adamant that the journey through the museum, through the content, had to reflect that dynamism of Yoruba culture, so
Really attaching your Yoruba
putting the
culture
team
into the
together,
museum.
with Professor Obiodi. He gracefully accepted, our request to be part of the team. So we had Professor Obiodi, Professor Jacob Olumona, Professor Henry Droll, and Dr. Will Reed. So they are
Ooh.
scholars. So they wrote the script, they wrote the narrative, which underpins the exhibition. And then our team of exhibition designers called RAA, Ralph Applebaum Associates, helped to bring that to life. But then we also have a great team. We have a vast team of researchers, curators assistants, graphic designers, production designers, who have all played a part in creating the content for the exhibition. We had to go source objects from around the world, from Brazil.
I mean, that's wonderful. He
From
pulled
the
in so
British
many
Museum,
people.
from the National
I still ain't
Museum,
hear him say he pulled in an
private
interior designer,
collectors.
but
We've been overwhelmed
they be
by the
forgetting about us
donations from some
sometimes, even
notable
though we
notable private
necessary.
collectors. So it's been very humbling. It's been very exciting. But
I ain't gonna hate on him.
the book by Professor Abiodun
It's probably one on his team.
was a generator. It's a multi-sensory exhibition. I'm excited. I'm very, very excited about what we're coming up with. Um, it's been a journey through a story, told through different media, using old artifacts into everyday objects, expressing
The the
experience,
the
and
design for
imagination of
this
the future.
is
So we're looking
amazing.
at
I'm excited to
VR,
see, like,
AR,
check and see if it's
interactive
ready
media.
yet.
We've got some really amazing writers, graphic artists, animators who are just bringing these stories, to life to make it
Because
dynamic.
they're
So
really
we
taking
have
advantage of
mix of
technology
everything.
to
We have
help them to
artifacts, we
tell the
have
story and
audio,
really
objects,
create the
carvings,
museum in
we
a
have
way
objects
that
of
really does speak to today.
significance throughout, the evolution of the Southwest. And um, we've got objects that deal with, political history, art history, musical history,
Mm.
literature history, and then, like I said, we're also reimagining what the future would be like. Just creating really, really special narratives that can engage people and hopefully leave them inspired. When they experience the museum.
Okay.
Been very fortunate to work on some
Okay.
really
We're
exciting
finally getting to
projects.
the place where we're talking about some other
One
projects.
of
Because,
such
I
is the Land
mean,
Ministry of Waters.
these same clips over and over
Sepulchre
and over again have
was the
been
first
killing
project
me.
we worked on. It was designed as a breathable tower, right? Because where Nigeria is hot, it's gusty. And so we had this office block that we had to design.
So there's
And
another
we
office
wanted
building
to
in
make it as
Nigeria.
contextual, as possible, so that the materials were local, and it didn't feel alien to the environment. So it's 13-story tower. It's bang on the north-south axis. It's shaped like an oval, and then it's got an atrium
Sharp
in the middle,
oval.
and all the windows in every bay are openable on the facade and on the atrium side. So you can cross ventilate every part of the office, and at the top of the atrium
Okay.
is a vent, so you can have the chimney stack effect where
Designing
fresh air
in spaces like
circulating,
Africa and
and then
India is
with
very
material we
difficult
use
because the heat
stone,
is just so
we
intense.
use the brown
And
tarpaulin
then the
just to ground
sand
it
and all that
in
kind of
its
stuff.
context, and it also
So
makes it a relatively
seeing
It's also got the
how they
ceiling
designed
that
this
we wrapped, which
skyscraper
just gives it a little bit of an edge. So it's one of my favorite
is kind of
buildings.
dope.
Quite pleased with the way it came out. Another one is Scissor House in Parkview, and I mean, what it's the brief was from the client was to design a four bed townhouse. But we looked at it in the office and we thought, why don't we have some fun, with this one? So that was inspired by a pair of scissors. Funny enough, fun fact. So
It was inspired by a pair of scissors. That's fun.
quite a tight plot. It's got a swimming pool.
You'd be surprised the kind of
You've
stuff
got the main
that
entrance, then a
inspires
staircase
design.
spine,
You wouldn't think
which
that
acts
it
as the
is.
pivot running
But I
right
mean,
through the building, and then all the habitable rooms
oh gosh, what's the
spring
airport?
off
One
from
of the
that
airports,
spine.
I think is it New York's
And then same
airport?
thing,
One of those airports.
principles, cross
The
ventilation.
the concept was a bird.
The client chose the colors, for that one because he wanted it to be quite modern.
So I don't know.
But yeah, it's quite a popular building. It's very well photographed. Another one is Temple HQ in Victoria Island. Um, it's a refurb project. It started out as the brief was to design a media office. Um, the plot of land had this existing 1980s building, but rather than knock it down, we asked the client if we could strip it and then repurpose it. So he wasn't quite sure, but he let us do our thing. So I did a quick sketch about how we could expand the building because we thought rather than sort of knock the entire thing down, strip out foundations, why don't we use the carcass? That was there. So that was what we did. It was very stressful because we were trying to marry a steel structure with an old building and trying to create this super tech office. So it was very, very, very stressful, but I think we managed to pull it off. I think the client
That
was
it's
very happy.
always more
It's
difficult, but I always think that
and I think it was also
buildings that are
a
created
chance to show
from a
that
space where
you don't
they're
necessarily have to
repurposed as
create
opposed to just building from the ground up tend to be
renovate,
a lot more
restore,
creative and
repurpose
give
whole
you
buildings
a
and make
lot
them
more
beautiful.
in payoff with the way that
Another
you're able
one
to do
is
things.
City
Because
Gardens, which is a
when you
development
just create
project
from the ground up,
with
sometimes it just ends
friends
up
one,
being
Avenue
just
Construction,
so
Tillman Sheldon Friends. The
just the
brief
same
of
as
the
everything
client
else.
was
And
to show
using an older building forces you to look at things from a
to be
different
fancy.
perspective and come at it
And the
from a
site was quite
different way of
peculiar
working
because it
things out.
faced the street, or it bordered two streets, and so we came up with the idea of running 2 blocks of 5 townhouses. But then the problem was we ended up, we needed 3 facades almost because you had the site that was facing the streets, and then you had the second block which was looking onto the back of the first block, and we thought, okay, we needed to create another face for the back of that second block. So we went through a series of investigations in the office and ended up just thinking, what, let's just have fun with this facade, man. Let's push it, let's pull it, let's squeeze it, let's crumple it, let's do all sorts. So
It can be really fun to play around with the idea of space,
presented it to the client. Thankfully,
how you use it, how
liked
it
it,
looks, and how
and
it's
then we had to
affected
build it.
by just the
So we had to
environment.
sit down and work out the geometries of all these angles and the construction. And so it's been on site just sort of under a year now. The plan is to have it finished by September of this year, I believe. Yeah. So
There's another one that's in the works that they're working on right
those are my
now.
favorite projects. There
They've
are the
already
others as well,
started.
but those are the ones that that stick out to me. I think from a young age, I've always sort of danced to the beats of my own drum.
They asked, is he known as a rebellious architect?
But I mean, when it comes to architecture, I'm quite intentional. Architecture for me is about responsibility. It's about environmental
But
responsibility.
when it comes to design and creativity, that's what I always find interesting about these types of things, like the artistry behind things.
I see architecture as art, as public art.
The only way that you get these amazing periods of design and art is by people taking a chance and going against the grain. But the people who are in the grain always find it to be, um,
helps their quality of life, that creates
they always call you radical, in a nice way. You're radical because you're doing something different. But that's the only way that you can create this new realm, this new goal. And we can't all focus on doing the same things. And people who truly connect with art in a new way tend to think of, okay, this is good,
storytelling and just sort of
but what else can I do? What different can I do? So I like that he's not really thinking about it in terms of I'm trying to be different, but more so I'm just trying to do what I see.
tough, stressful, but rewarding. You know,
A stressful but
no journey
rewarding
is
career
ever
so
easy,
far.
and if you want to excel, you've got to put in effort. So I wouldn't say it's been easy breezy. It's been challenging, definitely. But there's something very rewarding about starting an idea and seeing it in build form. It's you can't explain it, man. You start with a sketch of
That's
something in
true.
your head, and people
When
say,
you
yeah, you
when you
can't do
start with a
that.
sketch and
And
then
you're
all
like,
of a
no,
sudden it
you
turns into something else, it's
and you get it
unexplainable.
done, and you just sort of nod, say thank you, move on to the next one. Because it's a journey. Trying to build a
And
body
that is
of
hard
work that
to just
speaks to
do the thing and then move
our
on.
philosophy, that speaks to the kind of architecture we want to produce.
I mean, the designs are great. I hold a special place in my heart for architecture. All right. We finished the episode. We finished the episode. So here's what I'll say is my thing that I'm looking forward to. I think one, I'm looking forward to seeing the two buildings that he talked about, specifically the museum and then the last building that he was discussing. I'm looking forward to checking and seeing if it's done, if it's almost done, like where they are in the process, because they look like really dope buildings. And since this was recorded a while ago, I just want to see how far they've gotten, if they're actually finished, because things happen, especially since a lot of this looked like it was happening during pandemic time. So how that might have affected anything else that they were working on, it's going to be a big deal. Um, I love the connection to him as an architect, where his mind went and how he connected to spaces. The designs that he created were amazing. Um, I loved the conversation, but for the life of me, I did not love the recycling of the same clips over and over and over again. And this is probably the the second one solidly that I noticed it in. It was another one that came close but wasn't quite the same. But this one, I was just like, I would have loved if they went more into those other spaces so that they wouldn't have to recycle so much of the same images. It's just it takes away from really being able to fully discover what they're able to do and what they're capable of doing, because they spent half the episode, more than half the episode, on this one building with this one thing and everything going on with this one building and one thing, and really didn't give enough time to discuss these other projects that the company has already worked on, some of them already completed. And so you don't get a full breadth and scope of everything that they're doing and everything that's going on with them, because we're looking at one dimensional thing. So And I think that's production. I don't think that's the story. So now when I think back on the other episode where I was feeling like I was disconnected from the story and I really didn't get enough, I really think it might have been more so the choice to say, we're going to focus on this one thing that you did as opposed to giving you a clear view of all the things that are available. Um, that said, still an enjoyable episode. Still like the designs, and I want to see more. And I'm glad that I was exposed to this, um, because I think he has a very different perspective. Not very different, but a very creative perspective that I like to see. So that's it for today. Before you go, make sure you like and subscribe so that you know everything else that's coming up and you'll be able to lock in on all our future episodes. Until then, we'll see you next time. Bye.